From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Good afternoon. We're here with Hitesh Patel of Transworld Advisors in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Hitesh is a business broker. He's a certified M&A advisor and obviously an ExitMap subscriber. And he's got an interesting background. Hitesh, just tell us for a couple seconds how you went from being a pharmacist to being a business broker.
Yeah, no, thanks, John. Thanks for the invitation, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah, so I have a professional pharmacy degree, and I have a license to practice in the United States, but I don't practice it anymore. I do have my license active in case if my business brokerage doesn't pay out the bills, then maybe I can always. But
good to have a fallback.
Yeah, I can have a plan B then kick in. But yeah, I'm originally from India, and back home, my dad is a pharmacist as well. So from a single location pharmacy, he grew the business to multiple locations and a wholesale distributor of the pharmaceutical products. And I always used to help out in whatever way I can in his business, and that's what got me interested into the pharmacy degree. But always on the back of your mind, the entrepreneurship was always something which I saw firsthand, and I loved it, and that's what after practicing for almost 20 plus years in the United States, I thought that let me follow my passion, and then just made one particular date as a hard date to quit from the pharmacy field and then go into the business brokerage world and started helping out the small business owners, and that's what I did. So after it was quite a transition. It was risky jumping off the ship, but it's working out good. I'm truly happy, and then when I talk to the entrepreneurs and small business owners, it gives me a satisfaction at the end of it.
Great. One of the things I say in one of my books is you can tell an entrepreneur because he can navigate in the fog. When nobody else can see where they're going, you know where you're going. So you told me you came to the U.S. in 2001 on vacation to see if you liked it, and I guess you liked it.
Yep, there's still more to explore. It's a big country, right? So
it is.
I'm still taking my time. Yeah,
that's great. So you work with Main Street to lower middle market companies, and it's funny, and this is a bit of my soapbox here, but we talk to so many obviously financial planners in this business, and they say, "Oh, we don't deal with Main Street business owners." And, a Main Street business owner by the IBBA and M&A source definition, right, is $3 million, under $3 million in valuation. And if you're a typical $3 million company, your seller's discretionary earnings can easily be north of $500,000. And, because $3 million value, it would take about $750,000 for a multiple of 4 to get you to 3 million, right? Mm-hmm. And I know very few business owners with discretionary cash flow of 750,000 that a financial planner wouldn't want to talk to. Those are good customers. So, when we say Main Street, we're not really talking about mom and pop. We're not talking about very, very tiny businesses or micro businesses. We're talking about good, solid companies.
And you rightly say so. So, yes, but depends on which organization or what person you ask about what's a small business, right? What's a Main Street business? The SBA says, if you have less than 200 or 250 employees or less, you're still considered small business.
Sure, to them.
Yeah, to them. But what I've seen is in some cases, the revenue is one thing. Some cases, it's EBITDA is one thing, and in some cases, the number of employees. But at the end of the day, and you have mentioned it so many times in your books and in your podcast and all those things, that at the end of the day, how the company is managed on a day-to-day basis, that's, I would see as whether it's a mom and pop shop or whether it's a small business or there is a management company which is taking care of day-to-day operations, then it's that's how I classify. But I don't see too many companies out there which are entertaining this sub $3 million revenue or $3 million price tag businesses. But that's our, if you look at the number of companies out there which are less than 20 employees and doing anywhere from $1 million to $10 million revenue, that's bulk of all the private companies out there in the United States, right? When I came across your product and when I started looking what are the principles it's applying to make sure that it's a good transition process for when the company is looking to either sell the business or it's transitioning to their family or family member or something. And what I came across was this principles can be applied to even these smaller businesses, and they can be surely benefited out of that process. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for the seller, for the buyers, and for us, the professional, the intermediaries, because most of our success fees are based on those percentage of what we sell that business for.
And the other funny thing is when we do the National Exit Planner Survey, and we ask, then I told you when we were offline before we got on today that so many financial planners tell us we don't do Main Street, and yet when we ask them, do you deal with companies that are valued at under $3 million? Over half of all advisors say it's more than half of their business. They just don't know what Main Street is.
And that's what I liked about the Transworld Business Advisor, the franchise, that they didn't shy away from those businesses. That's our actually core business, anywhere from $500,000 to 5 million. Maximum number of transactions happen in those price range, actually. And then most of the offices has M&A advisor, which are capable of handling transactions which are up to 100 million and $200 million transactions. And then we have a bunch of them done under our belt in Transworld system.
Yeah, but that requires different horsepower than most of us in independent shops work. You've got to have a big team to work on something like that. I'm working on one transaction for an exit planning client right now, and the other side's attorneys are Foley Lardner, their accountants are E&Y, and they're just making me nuts because it's 20:1, right? Sometimes there are 20 people. It's just incredible how much money they're willing to bill. It was really interesting because you are talking about company readiness, and certainly we have a number of brokers that deal a little bit more in the front end, but most of them just want the transaction. And as well as I do, there are two schools in the IBBA and M&A sort, mostly in the IBBA. One says that you're driven by your inventory. And if you have quality inventory, you get quality buyers, you do quality transactions. And the other school says throw everything up against the wall, some of it's going to stick.
It's a numbers game. That's what.
Yeah. And I've always been, and you are too, part of that former group that says, the companies need to be ready to sell.
Right.
So, and what drove you to that? What do you look at when you walk in? What are the things you want to see in a company that you think is ready?
No, that's a great question.
Can be made ready.
Yeah, that's a great question. And then when I transitioned from the pharmacy field to the actual business brokerage side, and I was for the first few months, I was into the second group, as you just mentioned. And after 6 months or so, I started noticing, and I'm kind of like a analytical guy, so I would try to track, okay, how much time I'm spending behind this process, how much time I'm spending behind this. And what I noticed was like more and more time I'm spending behind, which is not producing any value. Like even if I get the listing, the kind of buyers I'm getting, the kind of calls I'm getting, the kind of time I'm wasting, it was just mind boggling. So I thought, there has to be something. There has to be something. So I started looking out started researching. That's when I came across this exit planning. And then I started saying, okay, how do I use a software or a platform or a coaching where I can start implementing all these principles into the Main Street businesses, the lower middle market and the Main Street businesses. And I came across your product, your service, and I don't know if you want to take a look at all the billing, but probably I'm past 4 or 5 years I've been using the ExitMap, and truly, I'm not using up to the extent to what it can be used as. That I'm probably only using some portion of that, but it changed my entire practice. It changed my entire the quality of listing I started getting. And then earlier, just to get the listing, John, I probably spend like 2 to 3 hours or 2 to 3 different meetings with the seller, just try to understand what the company is like and what needs to be prepared, right? And before I put all my different variables into my head, it was kind of a lengthy process. But now, if I get a lead, right, and after 15 or 20 minutes of conversation with them, I send them the link to this ExitMap assessment, right? And the results, what I get out of that, it saves me almost 3 meetings. So by the time, after 15 minutes of conversation, when I go to and enter into this business, at that time, I already pretty much 50% to 60%, I'm aware what the company is in what situation. And it helps me a lot. It helps me a lot to understand without entering there even one time, like I can gauge what the seller is, at what stage it is, what the company is at what stage, and what preparation I need to start making to make sure that the listing is sellable.
Yeah, and I mentioned to you before we got on that I had been a business broker before for about 10 years. And obviously that's the thinking that went into the assessment too. It's like, what would I want to know?
Yep. Yeah. And that's what clicked, your product, your service, that's what clicked with me. And that's why, and I'm truly happy with, it saves me a lot of time. And when I go and have a conversation at that time with the seller, they feel that this guy knows about my business more than like their regular advisors. They know, because with the experience and with the knowledge of previous transactions, when you see certain scoring into certain the different operations and the planning and all those things, you start getting to know like where the company is standing.
Sure. And even just as a comment, if you're not using all the tools, sure, you have access to owner centricity.
Yeah, we do.
And that, as you know, is a killer.
Yep.
It kills value. That's why we only look at management teams. Whether, it's an internal transfer, an external transfer. If you don't have a management team, you can do all the value enhancement consulting in the world, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And even in the assessment, there is one of the question is how many hours do you spend behind this business, right? So the owner picks whatever the hours, and based on that, the scoring comes up, and then the scorecard, it will light up either red, yellow, or white. So.
Yeah, I love the ones. I love going in and debriefing the ones that say, I spend 60 hours a week in my business and my managers make all the decisions. No, no, that's not happening. I could assure you. Yeah,
Yep.
one of those two statements is not correct.
Yep. Yeah, I think you missed it. So,
Yeah. Hey, let us take a break here
Sure.
so we can pay for the podcast and pitch my new book. And then we'll come back in just a moment and finish up. Hello, John F. Dini here, and I'm very excited to announce the publication of the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. Inspiration for the handbook comes from my 25 years of working as a coach to business owners, with 12 of those years dedicated to helping them plan their business transitions. It is a guide for advisors that explains why working with business owners is so dramatically different from working with other executives. It provides insights on how to approach planning conversations with owners more effectively. Plus, it takes you through the steps that will help you develop your relationship as their most trusted advisor. I wrote this book for advisors who want their clients to move on to a second act that's even more rewarding than their first. If you read any of my previous books, you know I don't lecture. It's a conversation between two professionals. If you work with business owners, I strongly encourage you to read the Exit Planning Coach Handbook. I think it will quickly become a go-to in your reference library. It is currently available on Amazon and the Kindle store in paperback and as an audiobook. Welcome back. I'm here with Hitesh Patel of Transworld Advisors in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he has been talking about business owners being prepared to move on. Hitesh, if folks need a business broker, give us your, well, of course, we'll have it when we post the podcast, but why don't you give us your information right now if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can reach out on the website, which is www.tworld.com, which is Transworld, so tworld.com/capital region. That's my office. Or you can call me at 717-909-1652.
Right.
Or you can email me at hpatel@tworld.com.
Okay, terrific. So we talked a little bit about your first meeting with a client, and having them take an assessment so that you can get a better idea of where they are. What is people come to you with the intention of wanting to sell their business. What is the magic trick you use to make them decide that you're the guy they want to have sell your business?
Again, awesome question. And then, so once I have these assessment results out, you also provide the action plan and the analysis, the 40-page reports, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in there, on the page number 39, there's a scorecard.
Right.
Right. So I take that along with me on my meeting. On the first meeting, when I go to the client, by that time I already have the reports and everything. But that scorecard is what I go there, and after first half an hour of understanding what their business is, what their goals are, I take out that scorecard and then discuss each and every score out of that scorecard with them and see like what's their feedback on that. What do you think that I'll ask the client, what do you think this scoring is? Do you think it's realistic? Is this what you were expecting, or is this something out of ordinary you want to discuss? But after spending all that time with the scorecard and what all things, with that honest discussion, I would say 8 out of 10 times the client is they do have a trust in you, and because the way you presented their business and where they stand in the process, and once they understand the process of selling the business, they're ready to be our client.
Yeah, we use it all the time. The Teddy Roosevelt saying, "They don't care what you know until they know that you care."
Yeah.
And that's
beautiful. Yeah.
We just saw the pitch for the new book. The new book is all about discovery, all about working with clients to better understand what they need and what they expect. Because, the numbers are horrible in our industry. I mean, 75, the original survey was done by EPI in 2013, And then Price Waterhouse did another one last year. And 75% of business owners are unhappy with the result a year after they sell their company. And that's just terrible for the advisory industry. How could you have 75% of your clients unhappy?
Right. So something is broken.
Yeah.
Something is broken. Either the process or something is broken. So
they don't know what to expect to the next stage,
Yep.
and they're miserable. I'm talking to a business owner right now who is, he was asking me, he's in the process of selling his company. And he was asking me, well, how long do you think I'll enjoy working for the new owners? And I said, like 2 minutes. I mean, you have to stay some time for transition, but you're not going to like it. Nobody likes it when they can't make the decisions anymore.
Yeah, because they see their baby being handed over to somebody else, right?
Sure.
They are the decision makers now. The new. So.
Yeah. What do you do when you see somebody that needs a lot of work? Their financials are a mess, or they're working 70 hours a week and nobody wants to pay them for a 70-hour-a-week job.
Yeah. So again, I'll present it to them the way it is, and then give them the couple choices that how urgent you want this business to be sold, right? If you don't care about the value, if you don't care about whether about your employees or there's one way of putting that out there to the buyers. But if you do have some kind of expectations, if that's your retirement is attached to that value, what you're going to grab, I honestly talk to them. I said, like, your scoring is not that great, and you can either spend like another 6 months, or I can give you a template. I can connect you with certain advisors with either CPAs or either process managements, depending on what kind of company it is. We see it all the time in manufacturing companies. We connect them to the Lean Six Sigma advisors, right, and then try to find out how the efficiency of the business can be improved. So that way the EBITDA can be improved, but it does take some time, right? And during that conversation, we either introduce them to the other advisors who are professionals in that, and they'll improve the value of those value drivers are improved, and it increases the value of the business. But if they don't have time, then but at least they are not in the dark, right? They already know that, okay, I did advise them about if they can sustain this business for another year, 2 years. In that time period, they can improve the values. But if they are not ready, at least they are prepared for taking the lower end of the stick.
Sure. Well, I tell them, and I know as a broker, you've seen it too. I used to walk into people and say, I'm ready to sell my company. And you'd say, well, how long are you planning? 30 days. You can, get rid of it in the next 30 days for me. And in exit planning, I tell people all the time, there's a direct corollary between time and risk. If you want to sell your company in a week, I can sell it for you in a week. That's not a problem. We'll draw up a promissory note for your employees. They'll sign it, and you can spend the next 10 years wondering whether you're going to get paid. Or we can reduce that risk.
So at least now the client they're not totally in the dark, and they are aware that these are. So those are the options I would present when the scoring is horrible. It's the situation is. And we have seen it quite often.
Yeah. So what's your best referral source? Where do your customers come from?
I would say Transworld itself. And also the referral from the other advisors. So we also do some kind of valuation. So we call it broker's opinion of value of the business. More than, I would say, 60-70% of the business owners doesn't know what's the value of the business.
Right.
And that's the first question that needs to be answered before they start the journey of exiting their business, right? So during that time, Yeah, so we market our services saying that we can provide the understanding of what's your business worth. And once we embark on that journey, and during that stage, we again send them this exit map assessment as a first step towards that. Before even we grab the financials and all those things to provide them the BOV on their business.
Yeah.
So business valuation proposition is a good source of the leads. The other professionals, they are a good source, and our marketing program from the Transworld system.
That's great. I don't know if you see the quarterly Pepperdine Capital Markets survey. The number one reason for failure to complete a transaction is owners' unrealistic expectations of value.
Yep. So, yeah, and then that's one of the factors we saw that. And again, in the start of our conversation, you said there are two groups, right? Some business brokers, they would just take the listing and then they'll work through that listing as the time goes by. But again, at that time, the owner's expectation is 2x, and then the realistic value is 0.5x.
Yeah.
There's a big gap to be filled, right? So
yeah. And I remember a broker telling me at an IBBA conference, I'll put it up for any price they want to ask, and the market will tell them what the value is. And after they've gone through, turning down 10 offers, they'll understand. And I said, yeah, how much of my time are you wasting?
Yep.
And you've burned through all the good qualified buyers that knew what they were doing. Now you're left with the junk.
Yep. Yeah. So again, there's a couple of different ways to handle those, right? But it's we like to make sure that my clients are more aware, more educated in the process, and our valuation range, what we provide in the beginning of the process, I would say 80 to 90% of the time, we are within those range, plus or minus 5%.
Yeah. Well, you know too that they're afraid to tell you at the beginning because they're afraid if they're too low, that's what you're going to sell it for.
Right.
So So then we have to face owners that don't trust you. So I think building that trust is absolutely critical.
I think educated seller, the person who understands the entire process after meeting you, they are busy with and once they put a trust in you, let them run their business at the fullest of their efficiency, right? And let them do the thing what they do the best, and let us handle those transactions and the processes. And that's the person whom we can spend a little bit time ahead of this planning process. That's an ideal seller. That's it doesn't matter whether they want to sell it to a third party or to their employees or pass it on to their kids or family member. But you need to understand the process. You need to get the valuation done. You need to get as from my healthcare experience, I see, right? Like you go to a doctor's office and by just checking the pulse, they can't tell you that what kind of disease or what kind of you got to do the lab test. You got to do the MRI, CT scan, depending on what severity is there. And I think ExitMap is that lab test which needs to be done before.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Great analogy, or something. I mean, yes, we're partial to the ExitMap, but some way, some structured discovery process with the potential client. Yeah. Well, it has been a pleasure today. I hope you will come back and give us your perspective on other things as we go forward with this. This podcast is kind of new, so we've been at it a couple of months now, but we're only putting out twice a month at least until we figure out what the heck we're doing. So,
We'll be part of the journey. Glad to be part.
So thank you very much for your time, Hitesh. It's been a real pleasure spending it with you, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.